Iraqi military units raid the small neighboring country in the Persian Gulf. There had been an anti-Saddam coalition evolving in the shadow of old political blocs and agreements with only one goal: the dictator could not block the source which covered the oil needs of the whole world, so Iraq opted for war.
The war was about guaranteeing that Saddam Hussein did not have free rein to roam through the Gulf, knocking over any regime he wanted to. It obviously, given also the enormous oil resources that exist in that part of the world, had significant impact in terms of who's going to control those resources. It's clearly not going to be Saddam Hussein.
The free world armored itself against the dictator. The first pictures of the war captured the eyes of the viewer as if it was only a computer game, step by step, precisely.
At 2:25 in the morning Baghdad time, the first sirens started resounding, and the sky was lit up by anti-aircraft and other searchlights.
In the Baghdad air war, the anti-Saddam coalition deployed all the instruments required for a modern war: invisible bombers, so-called smart weapons, which could hit the target automatically, and they destroy the most important Iraqi stations during the first attacks. But the U.S. had another surprise. They recorded the pictures of the attack for the public, a sort of reality TV.
That was vital. It in effect, crippled Iraqi military capability. I don't think Saddam Hussein had the foggiest notion of what a real modern Air Force was capable of doing to him.
Saddam deployed his outdated rockets, but these didn't cause too much damage, and Iraq didn't use toxic gases. The Scuds had more impact on the region than political explosives. Saddam's target was Israel. Patriot rockets were stationed there. Some pictures of the Scuds were made public, but these only increased the legends of the Gulf War's history. Even the Patriots were handled as an excuse, as they were also old irons, and people didn't have to be afraid of their efficiency.
An investigation by the United States Congress a few years later found out that the Department of Defense lied. And in fact, only less than 1 out of 4, or in fact maybe it was even less than 1 out of 10 of our Patriot missiles actually successfully downed an Iraqi Scud missile.
The war, as seen on the screen, looked like this. The coalition with its air flights defeated Saddam precisely and very efficiently. Reporters like Peter Arnett were not allowed to show the monstrosities of the war. Dead civilians didn't fit into the picture.
It was the most heavily censored coverage, in modern history. So the U.S. government, they attempted to discredit me by saying that I was just a mouthpiece of Saddam Hussein propaganda, and that I was therefore ill-serving the United States and the world.
Preparations for ground wars started. Nobody knew what could be expected during a ground war. The TV propaganda of the Pentagon worked very well. They showed their own soldiers as brave heroes of the desert, and the enemy were shown as cruel elitist warriors.
What we did was line up not a few dozen tanks, not a few hundred tanks, but a few thousand tanks, all in a line as if they were a firing squad.
When the fight started on the ground, Saddam's troops had already lost the war. The war in the desert lasted only 3 days. That which was sold to the public as a dangerous military maneuver was only a one-sided slaughter. After the 4-week air attacks, the assumed Iraqi elite troops were completely unprotected and demoralized.
Every single Iraqi tank, truck, car, building, and person, if they didn't surrender, they were obliterated.
The game seemed to be a victory without victims. Again and again, they showed pictures of Iraqi captives who were better off to give up the fight, just not to go on with fighting. The liberated Kuwait. Only once did the public encounter the real face of war, the highway of death, the symbol of the full destruction of the whole Iraqi army.
This American firing squad killed an estimated 100,000 Iraqis in 42 days. That's approximately 100 Iraqis killed every hour, on the hour. That is massive bloodshed.
The fact of the matter is we did exactly what we set out to do. We did it effectively, efficiently. We did it with the support of the international community, and we did it at minimal loss of life from the standpoint of our troops. Doesn't get much better than that.
Superficially, it was a full victory. Only 147 Americans were killed in the war. But the returnees were bringing a lot of pictures which could not be censored. Deployment of forbidden chemical weapons. Devious grenades. Fights against unknown viruses and irreversible injuries.
For those of us who were there, this war, it's our understanding, is the same as any other war. Massive amounts of bloodshed and people dying. That's what war is all about. It's not video games, not people pushing buttons. It's people dying.
But these were the pictures which defined the Desert Storm. Pictures of a storm which liberated, not destroyed. Dead people have nothing to do with this picture.